All right, so Chris begs me for a ride to Elkins. Well, I don't know it yet, but the Elkins Police Department has messed with the computer system somehow, making it to where I am now. If I go back into their county at the time, that I'm going to be arrested for something that I was already arrested for, which is pretty messed up. So basically, Chris sets me up to go to Elkins, where he goes into the Go Mart or the Speedway in the beginning of Elkins after Crystal Springs. He walks into the Speedway. He asks me which 32-ounce Coke that I want, right? And I already know that he's going to do something to my drink. So he comes back out. He hands me my drink. And what he's done is he's put one of those pills, one of those abortion pills in my drink, right? And then everybody sets it up to where I'm going to get pulled over right away after pulling out of the Speedway, right? And then they run my name and they try to tell me that I have a warrant for my arrest, even though I'm the manager of a Pizza Hut in Buchanan and I'm taking classes to become a recovery coach through Celebrate Recovery. And you know what I mean? Like, I've passed all these stupid, silly tests. Anyways, but at the time, also the very next day, a social worker is supposed to come check on my house because they're planning on just giving me my kid back. So it's like all of these people work together to make sure that I have an abortion after they've already aborted my baby. They just don't realize that the baby's aborted yet. They want to see proof. Then they send Chris Rodriguez in to put that abortion pill in my 32-ounce Coke. And then they have the cops arrest me, right? After I've drank that Coke and stuff like that. They make sure that I drink it. And then they have the cops come arrest me, making it to where whenever I start to, when things start to pass or when things start to happen, then I have to ask for a pad. And basically, as soon as I ask for a pad and as soon as they realize that I've miscarried, now all of a sudden I'm getting bailed out after getting arrested for the same thing twice. And I would then, of course, go to the doctor, and I was really, really upset and frustrated that they made sure that they had to put me in jail to make sure that I miscarried. And I would end up going to the hospital, and the doctor would tell me that the baby stopped forming weeks ago, that the baby had stopped forming, the fetal heartbeat had stopped. They said 4 to 6 weeks beforehand, and that everything was still even intact then when they were looking at it. They're like, your body did a really, really good job of this creation that it has. It has not wanted to let it go. For whatever reason, it has held on to it, and whenever it decides to let it go, it will. And until then, it's just going to apparently stay there, and we're just going to have to wait. And he described what it would be like kind of whenever it would pass and everything. But it's just one really sick story about a guy who was paid to get a gal pregnant and then abort her baby, which is really fucking disgusting. It's a really sick thing. It's really sick and twisted that there are so many people involved in watching and hovering and monitoring over my life. And that that none of them can add any goodness or help or quality to it. They can just pay nasty, sick, demented trash like these guys to do this kind of thing. And the fact that the police in Elkins yet again went along with a really, really nasty plan, that has been also a very scary thing. Both instances, including the Elkins PD were very traumatizing. The very first time, just how serious of a situation that it was, and the fact that I was covered in bruises and needed help, and that I was the one placed in handcuffs, and that my baby was taken away from me, and it was all, it all ends up being one big setup. The first time, especially, but for them to take me back, lure me back to Elkins, so that I can be hurt again, and so that the Elkins Police Department can make sure that I go back to jail. And then, as soon as I ask for a pad, basically, then they're ready to let me go or whatever, because they know how illegal it is for them to have me there that second time, just so that they can watch to see if I begin to miscarry the way that they've been waiting for me to for however long. Can you imagine how many people have to be involved in one miscarriage for them to go through all of that trouble? And they absolutely and most certainly did go through all of that trouble. Yeah, they did. It's very sick. It's very demented. And that little Nick dude, he would just gaslight me the whole time, and he would just be rude, so rude to me the whole time. And, I was just so shocked at just how ignorant and arrogant, and just how, how he was able to just walk into my life and pretend to be good, and was able to pretend to be good at church while we were at church, pretend to be good while we were at these Celebrate Recovery meetings, pretend to be one of the most successful dudes, and have all these people talking about how successful he is, and, all these people vouching for, and then behind closed doors, he's setting up his laptop funny so that he can record us, or he's setting his phones up funny so that he can record us, or he's, acting funny, or he's, sitting on his phone texting these girls talking about, let me come over to your house instead of being here. Or, she doesn't want me to do my ADHD pills over here. I can't be here. Can I come over to your trailer? He's just so dorky. Anyways, it was like me after I hadn't been in a relationship in a couple years. I'd been completely by myself, and I had gotten to the point where I was kind of interested, at least in hooking up with another Christian, somebody who was actually going to be willing to go to church with me, and was serious about, not, getting tore up from the floor up and making that all our lives were about. And I, he was somebody who'd been in the military, which you got to watch, you know what I mean? Unfortunately, when people tell you that they're in the military today, that's not a good thing. It's not necessarily a good thing. It could mean really bad things for you. I didn't make it that way. Don't look at me. I'm not the one who made it that way. And, I would cry a little bit to the women around me to tell them what was up, but I didn't really let them know completely 100% what was up, because I knew that they were part of a little bit of what was going on. And I would find out a little bit later that they were super, super a part of what was going on, because one of them would even report me to Child Protective Services, which was a move to try to prevent me from leaving. If they can hurry up and get you into another CPS case, then they can force you back into this Celebrate Recovery group so that you can celebrate recovery with them. They would deliberately have people not really be able to help. They have all these people praying with you and acting like they are going to be, that they're there for you and they're your new family, and that they're there for you to lean on during tough times. But they're really not. They're not at all. They'll in fact set those tough times up for you, and then sit back and get upset when you don't fall the way that they set you up to. it was especially rough for me, as such an emotional person, such an emotional body, such a loving person, to just look around and love everybody and want the best for everybody. Um, but, in secret, a lot of these people are working for evil, or they're involved in evil. Some of them, especially the ones who go to church, are involved in um, witchcraft. They might be involved in secret animal and other sacrifices, ritualistic activities. That's some pretty sick and demented stuff to, get somebody pregnant like that, just so that you can, um, uh, give them an abortion so that the people watching can enjoy watching a mother um, get upset that she lost her baby, which is exactly what they set up, basically. And um, this Nicholas Lowe guy, I would he would basically leave from my apartment and go move in with this girl who kind of had a mustache going on over in the trailer park. And then those two would kind of disappear together. I know that whenever he checked out of the recovery homes, they told him, like, hey dude, if you're going to check out of this now, you're not going to be able to check in later, which I thought was kind of stupid of him. You know what I mean? Like, go ahead and finish your program. But he was convinced that he was done with um, this pattern that we had, which was like that I would pick him up and hang out with him, and then we would have to drop him off back in time, and he was only allowed to hang out certain times because he lived in this special housing and stuff. And I think that he began to get annoyed by that, and he was still in some kind of program or something like that. I can't remember what it was that he had to still continue to do, whether he was in that recovery housing or not. I don't really know what the entire story was. I was pretty, it was like I tried to ask questions. I tried to get to know that person, and it should have been a huge red flag for me that it was like he was able to tell me that he served some time in the military. He was able to tell me about, the struggles that he'd had and how he'd had to, get away from, the drug life and scene and everything. And, how he'd, and he talked about how he changed his life, and he really acted like, that God and going to church and everything really had changed his life, that being, a part of, this household and being around these other guys in recovery had really improved his life and everything. And I was just willing to be supportive of whatever, because I'd experienced addiction before, but it just hadn't taken the same kind of control over my life that it had his. But for each person has their own story, and just for us, I felt like at the time that it was that we were moving away from that world together, and that we had money in our future, that we both worked, that we were leaving a world and a lifestyle of drugs and crime and darkness, and that we were embarking on a future during which we both would have money and resources, and each other and freedom, and that we would be upgrading in a pretty major way. And he was only there for show. He was only somebody who was sent in, and was basically you could consider that person a sex trafficker. And that's just one way that that a person can be basically sex trafficked and set up to even, be impregnated so that they can be forcibly aborted, and that can be entertainment and fun for others. Yeah, that's totally something that I went through. And I went through it out here in Cambridge Heights, and I'm pretty sure that that it was recorded in multiple ways. And not only was all of that recorded, but plenty of other activity from that time frame was also recorded. Oh, I just broke my ring while I was sitting here. But he recorded a lot more than he was trying to. And I knew that that was going on because I've seen a few of them open up their computers and set their phones up in certain ways as they pretend that they're not recording what's going on. And I've seen people pretend that they're not really recording what's going on since I was about 7 years old. So yeah, it's getting really old. So, so that is the story about the last baby that I tried to have. That was my last pregnancy. And that was how I lost my last pregnancy. And I'm really good at getting pregnant. I'm really good at having babies, carrying babies full term, and that sort of thing. So I didn't just mysteriously and magically have a miscarriage. I'm not really one of the miscarrying type. Not that I would ever mean that in an offensive way at all. Ever. What a terrible thing. I would never mean that in an offensive way. Just to say that I was a very fertile creature and that I was more than willing and able to pop out lots of kids. And it wasn't that long ago, but people have done a lot of really bad things to me. They did a lot of bad things to me before then, lots of bad things, and then they did bad things to me then, and then they did even worse things to me directly afterwards. And the badness has never ended. It's never stopped. And I in many ways was kind of like a damsel in distress, like that princess off the Mario Brothers or whatever. Like, poor little, like, really needed kind of like rescued and stuff, and that never came. And then they even had like one of the people that they have had assault me. They had that person get online and like try to schmooze up to me before anyone before anyone let the cat out of the bag, that was one of the people who had assaulted me. And it was just really messed up because like they kind of uh like they knew that I uh wanted law enforcement to get involved in what was happening, and like they got online and pretended to be law enforcement and YouTube videos. Anyways, it's been a real mess, you guys, but it's been just like basically just like one person after another like trying to like humiliate me. They thought that it was stupid that like I would want to go to church or be in a relationship or to have babies or to live a real life or anything like that. So it's just been like lots of abuse and death and perverts, and I mostly just steer clear of all the like drugs and alcohol and partying and stuff like that. I mostly just miss my little kids. I mostly just miss my kids, and we're all just kept separated and stuff because of the corruption. And to cover up